Good morning, diners, and welcome to another edition of The Cooking Zone here on the Doomstead Diner. And today I am going to teach you one of the most important recipes in the SNAP card diet and budget, in the sense that it is tasty and versatile, and probably next to some times when you can get chicken on super sale, the most cheap meat protein that you can put together. And there are a lot of ways to make dishes that have meat in them that spread it out well. Chili is quite popular. Spaghetti and meatballs, spaghetti bolognese, lasagna. I can go on and on with different ways to spread out your supply of generally hamburger meat, chopped meat, ground beef, whatever you want to call it. And that's the usual choice of meat to use when you're going cheap. And the key there is not to make hamburgers, because if you make hamburgers, then you don't spread it out. If you spread it out, you can get your daily meat needs, protein needs, in a much smaller quantity than you have with your typical hamburger. And so I don't cook hamburgers much. They're kind of a premium meal. All right, so let's get to the cook. And what are we making today? That's the question. Well, we're making a dish from New Orleans, down in Louisiana, in the bayou. And it's Cajun rice, or dirty rice as it's sometimes referred to. And traditionally, the meat they used down there was basically, whatever was on hand. Alligator meat, gizzards, frogs, whatever, went in the pot or in the pan to get sauteed up and then mixed up with the rice and so forth. If you get dirty rice in the U.S., and most of the time it just has ground beef, hamburger, in it. And, it makes an okay dirty rice, but it doesn't have that authentic Louisiana taste. So I don't do it that way. I start out here with a couple of different meats. I've got the ground beef, yes, that's over here. And to the right on the screen, or maybe it's your left, I don't know, is ground Italian mild sausage. You can use hot sausage if you like. I just don't make my food so spicy anymore. Spicy and me don't agree anymore, unfortunately, because I really love spicy food. You can't win them all, though. Okay, let's get that in there with the cripple arm. And the light is on for a change on my bug out electric cooking apparatus. The piece of celery escaped. The hot plate, electric hot plate. And I'm cooking today on a cast iron skillet. And you don't have to use a cast iron skillet for this. And if you don't have one, and just are carrying more modern stuff, you know, Teflon or ceramic coated and whatnot, those work fine for this, as long as you're, you know, working over electric or gas and so forth. those things work fine. And these cast irons are pretty heavy, you know. So it really depends on what kind of room you have. Now myself, I have, you know, plenty of room, and I bring along with me in Savannah, that's my bug out machine, raised roof van, full size. I bring along with me, not my full set of cookware, that'd be ridiculous to fill up the van. But I bring, you know, a selection. Now, it kind of depends on what you expect to encounter while you're out there. Do you expect to be mostly cooking outside over the open flame? In that case, you really want to bring cast iron, because that modern cooking shit does not hold up well cooking over an open flame. So you want to avoid that with that type of cookware. And there are ways to get around it, which I may go over at a future date. And it's best if I do it outside at a campsite, though, or something like that. So it'll have to wait until the weather gets better and the campsites around here open up, which doesn't happen until May sometime for most of them. Okay, I'm not going to have you watch the full procedure here of browning this meat. You do want to get it completely browned. That's how you get that dirty rice look. So it takes a while, and the fat's going to render out. You can get a lot of fat out of this, and don't throw it away. Make sure you save the fat, what you don't use in the dish here, and you can use as much of it as you want, really. It's up to you on that one. I will drain some. I'm not going to put all the fat in, just too much in one meal. Okay, I'll let that brown here a little bit more on this side now that I've got it chopped up some. And I'll be back with more on this dish and the rest of the ingredients, which there are quite a few of to come, in just a few minutes. Alright, see you later. Alright, as you can see, a lot of the fat is rendered out of the meat, and it's getting mostly browned. And now is the next time for the next ingredient to make it a truly authentic tasting Cajun rice, and that is some diced up chicken livers. Now, I'm putting them in later than the rest of the stuff because they cook faster. And you don't want to overcook chicken livers, they get bitter. So put them in a bit later on your timeline of dropping shit into the mixture. Now another thing here, you don't have to use them. I mean, if you truly don't like liver, and many people don't, then, you know, don't add it. But, you know, I just caution you, first of all, chicken livers are not beef liver. They don't have that same kind of strong taste. It's more delicate. And then on top of that, when mixed in with all these other meats and with the spices that are going to go in here, I mean, you'll have the flavor in the background of the liver, but it won't be dominant, and it's going to make your dirty rice just that much more authentic tasting and whatnot. You know, now, you know, the real Cajuns, they used a lot of other gizzards too, you know, hearts and whatnot, you know. First of all, they're not so easy to get in the store as livers are. Chicken livers come in nice little packages. in the meat department, and are cheap, relatively speaking, as meat goes. I get them often for like $2.59, $2.79 a pound, somewhere in there. This time, for this one, unfortunately, no. They were $3 a pound. But that's still cheap, relatively speaking. Of the 3 meats that I'm using in this dirty rice, the ground beef came in the most expensive at $4.59 a pound. The sausage was second at $3.50 a pound, and then old chicken livers were third at $3 a pound. So, and I use about equal amounts of all of them. A little bit more of the livers and the Italian sausage, partially because it's cheaper and partially because I like flavor. And so the average cost for the meat here is probably around call it $3.50 to $3.60 a pound would be a good guesstimate. And you get a lot of meat there, and this is over a pound of meat altogether. I'm not sure exactly how much. I didn't weigh it first. I just kind of took lumps out and called it good, right? So I get as much as I get. All right, we're about done browning, but we want it to be a little browner, and we want to give it some smoky flavor. So we're going to add to it some liquid smoke. Okay, not too much, because this stuff is pretty strong. That's good enough. Oh yeah, smoking up the place already, smelling smoke. Okay. And that will also give you a nice, authentic New Orleans type of flavor. Alright, so we're going to finish this up, and then we're going to drain it. So, I'll be back for the next part of the cook in a couple more minutes. Alright, on to the next part of the cook of the dirty rice. And as you can see, the meat is out of the pan, and in its place there is some of the fat left, and the scrapings are in there too. So there's lots of flavor in there from the meat, especially that sausage, which is nicely flavored. And I do recommend using some type of flavored meat in there with your stuff. It makes it a little less bland. Okay, and the first thing that's going to go in here, now you don't want it too hot at this stage of the game, is going to be some sliced garlic. Okay, and I have about, I think, 6 cloves here. And as I like to say, you know it, is you can never have too much garlic in a meal or too much garlic in a day. Keeps away the zombies. Now the reason you don't want it, the butter and oil, to be too hot is because you don't want these slices of garlic, these skinny slices of garlic, to sizzle up and crispify too fast. You want them to release their flavors into the fat and butter for cooking everything else, so it absorbs into everything else. So watch your heat, you know, when you're doing this. And when you start to smell the garlic, that is when it is time to put in the other stuff that's going in the Cajun rice. And you have choices there, although not entirely free choices. You have some required veggies and then some are optional. And sort of like with the meats, you can put whatever the fuck you want to in there. You know, whatever works for you. You know, the more stuff, more different things, the more complete the meal is going to end up being. I'm starting to smell garlic. The more complete the meal is going to be in terms of its nutritional value. And ideally, your Cajun rice, dirty rice here, it can function as a one bowl meal. Okay, you just store it in a Tupperware after you make it. And a Tupperware, there's something from the Dark Ages. And then you use it as you need to. You know, you scoop out a bunch and put it in a bowl and eat. You know, microwave, of course, for that stuff. Or you can heat it up other ways if you don't have a microwave available. All right. So next up into the pan is what the Cajuns call the Holy Trinity, which is onions and celery and green bell peppers, all chopped up. Okay, and this mixture, besides being delicious, is going to add a lot of vitamins to your meal, and it will cook down quite a bit too here. So don't be too concerned about the volume right now. And we can turn up the heat just a little bit, let it cook faster, but I'll still, you know, end up breaking this segment off to finish the cook. And the liquid, the water, is contained in the vegetables that's going to get released. And the green peppers, you know, they're really got a lot of water in them. And they take a while to cook down. So we get that going. Now for optional stuff. That's the essentials. And if that's all you want to put in, just put that in. But I figured I would add, for additional vitamins on this particular go round, and some additional color, make it pretty, some chopped carrot. Okay, and I got back into eating carrots after making corned beef and cabbage for St. Patty's Day. And not one of my traditional vegetables to eat, but they were really good with the corned beef and cabbage. And so I'm kind of on a carrot enthusiasm right now. So carrots are going in the dirty rice. And I think we need to turn this up a little bit. And I got one more vegetable to put in there, but it doesn't need to go in yet. It'll go in a little later when we put the meat in and get this whole thing stewing up. Alright? And the rice, of course. It is dirty rice, right? So we will be back when we get to the fun part of putting together all the ingredients. And in the meantime, go, you know, have a drink or, you know, smoke some ganja or something. I'll be back. Okay, our veggies are now ready. And no, these veggies did not cook down that much. This is about half of the amount that I put in initially, because I am saving some of this to do a second batch later. And that I'm going to also use for some other recipes later. But now that we're at this stage, we're going to add in about half of the meat. So let's dig some of that out. Okay, and you might want to bust it up some more if it's still in some big chunks. You don't want your chunks too big. You want them to spread out through the rice. So who's ever eating it is getting a little bit of beefy goodness in every bite. Okay, and one more scoop I think will be good. Okay, so there's our beef and our veggies. And it is now time to spice it up. Okay, so let's start by adding some garlic powder. Okay. And next we will add some onion powder. Whoa! There you go, onion powder. Generic. Okay, cheaper. And it tastes the same as the name brands. And then, this is a Cajun dish, so we gotta add Cajun seasoning. Okay. And now I'm not adding salt at this point because the seasoning here has salt in it. And I don't want to get it too salted up. I can add salt later if I want to. And then, you know, I'm going to be adding beef broth that has salt in it. So I don't need too much salt. And then let's try to grind in a little bit of pepper. See if my cripple arm can do that. Okay, you always want to use fresh ground pepper. Not the stuff that's already ground up. Okay. So pepper. So we've got our seasonings in there. Let's stir it all around a little bit so it absorbs into the meat and into the veggies before we soak it in the broth. Here's a nice big chunk. Okay, and now let's go ahead and add the secret ingredients, more secret ingredients for my special Cajun rice. In the typical recipe, it's just like add 2 cups of water. But I use beef broths for more flavoring. And besides the beef broth, a little red wine, Cabernet Sauvignon. Whatever I've got around is good. Any red wine will do. Pinot Noir, Madeira, whatever. Okay. And finally, to that whole mixture, let's go ahead and add rice. Now you want your rice pre-cooked. There's some I had from the other day. And let's see if that's enough. Do. It might be enough. I have more to add to it, but I'm going to stir it up and see. And it's, you know, partially a visual thing, and it's partly a matter of, you know, how much you want to spread it out and how much carbo do you want to have relative to the meat and other stuff that's in there. and that's a personal decision on your part. You know, for this amount, you know, a couple of cups of cooked rice is probably enough, and that's what I had there. But I think I might just add just a little bit more. Get it a little more spread out. So let me see if I can get that over here. I think I'll just bring a scoop over in the spoon. Yeah, and that will do it. Okay, and now the only thing to do, left to do, is to drop a top on it and let it simmer for about 45 minutes or so. And let all those flavors blend together over that time period. So we'll be back later after it's all done, cooked up, and I'll put a bowl of it together for a picture, and we can just enjoy our dirty rice for today's lunch. That'll be today's lunch, okay, for me. And then, like I said, I'll be doing some other recipes with the dirty rice later. And you'll see much more of this. It is a very versatile food. It's kind of like, you know, Chinese fried rice or lo mein, stuff like that. You can use it in lots of ways. All right, that's all the cooking doom here at the Cooking Zone this time. Until next time, and please come and join us inside the diner. Join us in the Cooking Zone if you want to share your recipes, talk about the ones that we cook on here, or join us on one of our many other forum boards that discuss all facets of the ongoing collapse of industrial civilization. And you can find the address for our forum at the end of the rolling credits. All right. Hasta la pasta, baby.